Welcome to Between Two Barrels. I'm your host, Anthony Evans, along with my colleague, Scott Halligan. How the wife and kids doing? I mean, last time we talked to you, you guys were going out to the park?
Yeah, it was great. We met a really friendly guy in a trench coat and glasses. He wanted to take our picture with us, and he's supposed to email it to me, but we haven't gotten it back yet.
Well, if you're out there watching, hopefully you get those pictures to him. Today, on Two Barrels, we're going to be going over tequila. Actually, Mezcal. Saying we're going to talk about agave spirits today.
Indeed.
Mezcal is generally distilled from 30 different agave plants. There's a wide array of agave plants that are out there in the wild. And actually back early 16th century when they first discovered how to create mezcal, tequila wasn't a thing, it was mezcal. Until later on they decided that anything made from blue Weber agave will be, 100% blue agave will be dubbed as tequila. So all these other agaves now, as long as they follow certain guidelines, which we'll get to later, are dubbed as mezcal.
And with that being said, there's a couple other things that are utilized now that determine whether something is beyond just tequila's production is different from mezcal, despite them both being distillate from agave.
Yeah, like I was saying, the origin of mezcal, it came from the 16th century when the Spanish immigrants actually came into what is now known as Jalisco, and they brought their distilling knowledge with them, and they started creating a spirit, which I guess we would call an agave spirit at the time, and then later became known as mezcal. I think this is general for all of them, though. It's an agave plant that you have to cook the agave plant. The difference in mezcal is they create fire pits, and they take these agave plants, I guess
The pina.
The pina.
Pina, not peanut. That sounds wrong.
But they take that, they chop off the leaves, which is very physical labor.
It is insanely physical. The only thing that really compares to that is when you look at sugarcane harvesting for sugar production / making agricole, but the conditions can be really harsh down in Mexico and that's not to say that the distilleries are bad. That's to say that it's just it's hot and it's arid, and it is these guys have.
And they're working hard. I mean, that is physical work.
It's super.
After they harvest the plant, they chop off the leaves and everything, and all you have left is the piña, the heart of the agave plant. They'll bring it back to wherever their facility is, and they have little fire pits, and they throw all these piñas into the fire pit. They get it filled up, they put a layer of wet canvas over it, and then they put a layer of earth and sand on top of that, and they roast the agave for 3 days. And that is actually that is the majority of the reason why your mezcal has the smoky flavors.
It's just like what you see with Scotch production, where to kill germination different in terms of the production, but it's that infusion of smoke within the base grain or product that you ferment and distill your distillate from.
Most of the mezcals are going to be non-barrel aged. They're just going to be the clear mezcal. You see very few. There's some that are now coming out illegal mezcal. They barrel age theirs, but
it's not actually. It's not actually illegal to drink. Don't worry. It's very legal, as long as you're 21 or over.
Part of the reason they don't is because some of these plants take a long time to mature, and a couple of them they take up to 25 years to mature. So after that, you don't want to be sitting on another.
There's no reason to have an oaky where some of the real appeal of bourbon is that you're taking pretty cheap grain, even if you're sweet mashing, which is you're not using leftover grain from previous fermentations. Even then, corn and rye and even barley, albeit less so, is pretty cheap, and it's really a good vessel. Even though it still does have flavor and it's wanted, it's a good vessel to allow oak to show. With mezcal, the intensity and care that's put into the growing of the the agave, it's a waste to just have that be a vessel for oak.
Because how long does it take to?
Because why would you not just use, like maybe a year for a year for a harvest versus 25 years for a decent whole, but it's not going to compare to the amount of fermentable sugars you'll get from other things.
There are regulations that they have to follow. At the time I was typing this, I didn't really think we needed to dive into the actual.
You don't have to go specific, but
because the reason why, because most family-owned companies kind of ignore these laws because they feel like it's a pay-to-play type thing. So what they do is, and you'll see these around there, I think that we even have a couple, they just say agave spirit on them because they don't feel like, one, they either can't afford to do it, or two, they don't want to pay into those practices. They feel like it's just a way for the government to make money from them.
Mm-hmm. With that being said, that is not to say that all regulations are bad. However, the differences are going to be that even if you're not adhering to the regulations for mezcal is typically a pretty undoctored spirit. Even compared to things like bourbon or scotch that have very strict regulations that most, if not, all bourbons and all scotches stick to those. You'll see a lot of agave spirit that doesn't necessarily will still be very undoctored, which is actually pretty different from tequila. There's a lot of, which is not to diss on tequila, but there's a lot of doctored tequilas.
More additives.
But mezcal is, I've yet to have a very unpure or doctored. I've yet to have any mezcal that I feel has been dosed with a lot of additives.
Types of mezcal that are a little bit more popular. Espadín probably produces about 80 to 90% of mezcal. So it's an easier agave plant to break down after roasting. Most of the notes that you're going to get off it, more like red apple, bright fruits, smoky finish because of fire pits. Tobalat?
Oh yeah, I know Tobalat because I really am a big fan of Del Maguey. And just from the Del Magueys, I can tell you, it's a bit more herbaceous than Espadín. You get a bit more character of something like... Sorry, I was going to say it's something a bit more like...
So this one actually, it takes 10 to 15 years for the plant to mature, but it is a difficult plant to grow because it relies on bats and birds to spread its seed. And it is a very low yield. So this is why, if you do see it in the store, it's a little bit more expensive.
Tobacco. Thank you. Sorry, it was. It's very tobacco-y. You get kind of like that sweet but herbaceous, like pipe smoky, almost like bitter, like cherry pith or cherry pit.
Quiche, baquiche, madre quiche, barrio. These are all very small and rare. It takes 10 plus years to mature. These are deep flavors of pine, green bananas, lime zest, and a hint of tar and clean smoke. Yes.
That sounds lovely to me.
The tar and the clean smoke. It takes, so this one is kind of what I was talking about earlier. It takes 25 years for this agave plant to mature. It's a long time.
Indeed.
It gives you notes of melon, cantaloupe, and a bit of baking chocolate. This sounds just absolutely wonderful.
That is exactly what I remember. What's it called? What is the name of that?
Erstwhile, yeah. Erstwhile Tempestate.
We had a night of just hanging out and rip our tavern, of hanging out in the tavern and drinking some of that Erstwhile and that stuff was good. Damn.
Which segues into the next one, which is what we were enjoying, the Tempestate, which we do have in store. This one again it's another one it takes 25 years to mature, so that's why the price tag is a little bit higher on it, but it's well worth it.
It is both insanely creamy and fruity, but also very it has like a minerality and a smokiness that is so clean and so precise and so bright. It pulls a lot of different kind of spectrums of flavor that it seems it's impossible to really taste anywhere else, except for maybe like $1,000 Baijiu, which is going to be way more funky and way less accessible.
Ensemble is one of the more popular mezcals made. I mean, you can probably figure out what it is. It's just a blend of different mezcals thrown together.
I never would have thought that.
Yeah. Which creates a whole, there's a lot of different varieties you can use. Just like blending anything, you're going to get a lot of different flavor profiles out of it. And another very unique one that I don't think I've ever had either is pechuga. Pechuga is basically they take animal meat, mostly chicken, and they hang it above the still to allow for savory flavors too.
Typically people eat the chicken as it's being cooked. Just, take a look.
Yeah. And as they bite it, it drops juice.
Yeah, it drops juice on the Oh my god!
You! Thank you so much for watching our video about mezcal. Sure was fun talking about the different ways, different agaves that go into making mezcal. The way that they dig those fire pits and stick them things in there, man, they work hard too. That's some hard work. That's harder than a $2 steak, I tell you what. Next time on Between Two Barrels, we're gonna be talking about tequila. But until then, cheers. So, you! And you don't want to miss that. Till then, how to wipe, sorry. You! Fucking whatever.